Hello Pokemon fans, it's time for a technical critique. Let's not call it a technical critique, let's call it a content patch. Now, in my travels on the internet, I see lots and lots of things. Videos, articles, forum posts, you name it. However, I saw something the other day called Mega Evolution for the new Pokemon. Now, I haven't played it, and I have no wish to play it. I stopped after Generation 2 and I've never looked back. But I saw Mega Evolution and I said to myself, what the heck is Mega Evolution? And I watched a video on it and I have to say, no. No. At some point someone has to be the out and say, no, 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 no. Mega Evolution is, for those of you who were not born in the 90s, who were probably from the early 2000s, you don't know what the Holy Triumvirate is. In the 90s, that was Pokemon, Digimon, and a third show of your own choice. I chose Metabots, other people chose, well, that's not important. What is important is this Mega Evolution thing. Now, I can only respect Pokemon because it has had the exact same gimmick for the last 10 years, and it's still relevant, it's still going strong, and it's still sucking people in. And when it comes to gimmicks, trust me, I've got them all. Pokemon charts. The official handbook number 2 that didn't even have all the new Pokemon in it. The handbook number 3 that had less information than the first handbook. At least with this one, you got the level that it would evolve, all kinds of stuff. I mean, I even bought into the Pokemon trading card game, which was, get this, you have a Game Boy, you have a cartridge, you stick the cartridge in the Game Boy, and then you get to play with virtual cards by yourself. It was like if you had a link cable, you could link up to other Game Boys, and then you could play other people. Ugh, but other than that, you're basically just trading cards by yourself. What a stupid gimmick, and they charge you $60 for that. But Mega Evolution, I'd be fine with it if I mean it's basically a cross between Digimon and Pokemon, and never the two should meet. They keep them separate. Keep them separate. Let me just go through a few of these for you. Venusaur becomes Mega Venusaur. They couldn't even come up with cool names for the Mega Evolutions, and each of them are supposed to gain some kind of ability. Venusaur gets Thick Fat. It insulates it from water and fire types. The fire I get, but water has never been super effective against Venusaur in any game since Generation 1. Let's see, Charizard. Oh, poor Charizard. Charizard was an overrated Pokemon to begin with. And I know I'm stepping on a lot of toes when I say that, but when you look at the move stats and you look at everything that it learns, it has just been getting progressively worse after Generation 2. Now, depending on which region you're in, if you're in X, you get Charizard X. If you're in Y, you get Charizard Y. Here's the trade-off. For Charizard X, you get a cool-looking Pokemon with a very stupid effect. For Charizard Y, you get a very stupid-looking Pokemon with a pretty good effect. The effect is Drought, which powers up your Fire-type moves. For X, you get Tough Claws, which basically makes your physical moves decent, but if you go through the move set, even the old move set, by the time you level your Charizard up to anything that it's where it's a decent attacker for battle, you've probably already gotten rid of your majority of physical moves. You may have 1 or 2 physical moves left, but other than that, you're going to be using mostly Fire-type moves or Flying-type to take advantage of the special attack. Let's see, what else have you got here? Alakazam. Now, let me be clear. Some of these are pretty cool, but you have to understand, a lot of these Pokemon were either overhyped or overpowered to begin with. Take Alakazam. Generation 1, probably the most overpowered Pokemon of all time. But over the generations, it's become a much lesser and lesser character. So it's understandable that you would do something to spice it up, like giving it this Mega Evolution, which is really, really good looking, and it's got this really good ability of Trace. Gengar, again, you have another Generation 1 Pokemon that was really overpowered, and by the time you get to now, it's turned into a regular Pokemon again. So what do? You give it this Mega Evolution. But then you have other Mega Evolutions that really seem gimmicky. Like, for example, the Charizard, Venusaur, Blastoise. That's, I mean, that's a meh at most. Kangaskhan. This was a collector Pokemon to begin with. I mean, if you go back to the original handbook, like, what does it say? Kangaskhan. Let me find it. It's in the collector section. You know a Pokemon's good when it's in the collector section, eh? Here we go, Kangaskhan. Its original moveset was Comic Punch, Rage, and then it would learn Bite, Mega Punch, and Dizzy Punch. Now Dizzy Punch, that was a pretty good move because that would KO pretty much any Pokemon. But when you consider the level that you had to train it up to, I mean, you could take an Onix or a Graveler, and you could pretty much do the same thing, and you would have the type advantage because normal type was weak against everything, whereas others at least had special defense. Pinsir. Pinsir was a Pokemon I always liked, and I think it's good that it got a Mega Evolution, but I don't see why they couldn't just give it a regular evolution and give it that kind of power, because if you look at this ability, it gets Aerialite. Let's see if I click on it. It says, causes all normal type moves to become flying type moves and receive a 30% boost. Well, that's great and everything, but normal type moves were never very effective against the moves that flying type is not effective as. The trade-off, it doesn't. I'm not seeing it. Especially when you consider that a lot of the moves that were considered normal type for Pinsir were either given dark type, were given a dark type status. For example, Bite. Bite was given dark status. Vice Grip, that was given dark status. A lot of them are given. As a matter of fact, I think Kingler turned that into a water type. So Gyarados, Mold Breaker. Again, this is Mold Breaker at the very least. It kind of lowers, I guess, the susceptibility, because Gyarados was always a water flying. Gyarados' susceptibility was always electricity. I mean, one lightning bolt, bam. Thunderbolt could take that Pokemon out like nobody's business. Aerodactyl, its new look is pretty cool. I thought that was actually pretty good. Tough Claws, well, Aerodactyl's always been a pretty physical Pokemon, so at least there it's good. Mewtwo, Generation X Mewtwo, he looks kind of goofy. Generation Y, pretty good, but the ability it gains, not good. Ampharos, again, I don't see why they didn't just give it. I don't know why, if they didn't want to upgrade these Pokemon, they didn't just give them tertiary evolutions. I mean, it's not like they haven't done that before. I mean, even in Generation 2, there were Pokemon that we had that just got evolutions out of nowhere. For example, Golbat. Golbat became Gligar. Here's one. The baby Pokemon. These were made specifically for girls, so that they could play the game too. Let's see, what else do we have? Probably the most famous evolutions, because they were shown in the show. You've got Blossom. There was an evolution with the Sunstone. Peekaboo. What else did we have? Oh yes, Politoed. Probably one of the better evolutions that you got. Or, in the case of Eevee, if we flip all the way over here, here we go, Eevee. Eevee, who's always gotten new evolutions. I mean, I don't see why we couldn't take things like Blastoise or Charizard and give them this optional evolution and make it permanent instead of temporary, because some of these designs are pretty cool. And really, I don't. If you're not going to give every Pokemon a Mega Evolution, it just, I really don't see the point in having it. I mean, it's just saying, well, play these Pokemon instead of other Pokemon whose move stat really replace it. So that's my rant. I mean, I played Pokemon for several years. Eventually I fell out of Gimmick because it was basically the same stuff over again. I probably won't ever go back. But just looking at this, I mean, I think they could have done better. I honestly don't see what the point to having these is. If you wanted to upgrade these Pokemon, upgrade them. I mean, I know it's hard to get some of them. Pokemon like Alakazam or Gengar, you have to trade in order to get them. Or Ampharos takes a long time to work your way up, so it would take an even longer time to get a 4th evolution in there. Scissor, again, you have to, from what I know, you have to trade to get it. Heracross, only available in certain versions. Tyranitar, that's basically a Dragonite. That takes a really long time to get. But still, I think there could have been a better way to do this than simply to make it so meh. Anyways, that's my rant. I'll sign off now. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and like, favorite, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.